everyone. So I've been feeling really compelled to talk about my cancer journey, and because when I go on YouTube and I tried to look up other people's stories, I couldn't find anything about what it's like to be a young adult going through cancer. And I'm gonna make what I wish I would have seen last year. So to start off, my name's Kara, and I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer last year. I got the call that I had cancer on November 10th, and I found out that I had stage 3 cancer on November 14th. And it's still very hard to process, and I don't know if that's something you'll ever fully get over. I mean, I don't know, I'm still going through it. When I was diagnosed, a friend of mine told me that my life will never be the same again, and that a part of yourself is gone. And that's really hard to accept, but that's something I'm still working on dealing with. And you know, I'm struggling with the awkwardness of how I feel right now, so I'm carving a pumpkin. I feel like I need to just be authentic for people to see what it's like. So when I was diagnosed, I got a phone call. So it was a phone call on a Friday, and I was at work, and all they told me was that I had invasive ductal carcinoma, a very fancy way of saying I had breast cancer. And that was about all they told me. So leading up to that, I had what I thought felt like a lump, although I've always kind of had dense tissue. And so I was also having other issues too. So this is something I think people should keep an eye out for. My hormones just felt very crazy. My hair was very oily all of the time. Even after just washing my hair, I started to get dandruff, which I never had before. I just felt like there was something off with me, and I thought it was because I was just going through a stressful time in my life. But you know, I kind of started to notice symptoms of things being weird in May of last year, and then I just brought it up to my doctor because I already had to go in for a yearly exam, and it was an afterthought. I almost forgot to mention it, and I just told her, hey, I feel like there's something on my breast, can you check it out? And she felt it, and she said, yeah, there is something, I'm gonna send you to get imaging done. I did imaging, and what happens when you do imaging and you end up having cancer is that they're usually pretty quiet. I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of the people who do the imaging, the ultrasound techs. Maybe they aren't quiet for everybody, but they were quiet for me, and it didn't really make me feel much better. And I don't know if they know what's cancerous, but I'm sure they do. I'm sure that's what they're trained to know. And I remember that appointment, and the ultrasound tech, the main guy, whatever his title is, he said I could park a truck on your breast, something like that, something kind of weird. And I was like, okay. And then he said I needed to get a biopsy done. And so at that point, I'm kind of like, okay, that's a little weird. Why do I need a biopsy done? And so I get one done. And that week, I got a call saying that I had invasive ductal carcinoma. Here's the progress so far. See it? It's gonna be something. So I get the call, and I have to go to a concert that night. I didn't even know staging, I didn't know anything. And I remember that whole weekend, I was scared to drink, I was scared to have sugar, because I knew that there was cancer growing inside of my body, and I wasn't starting chemo or anything. And it just really scared me. So I think that's when something inside of me started to change that night. It is overwhelming And a lot of what happened is kind of a blur when I think about it, because what happens when you're diagnosed, especially so young, a few things happen. So anyone who's a bit older in your life is probably going to be able to be there for you more emotionally. Not everyone, but I noticed it was the people in my life who were older than a lot of the people my own age. And that's not to say that all of my friends didn't show up for me or anything, but I felt like they could handle what was going on and be able to kind of talk with me more. I would say cultivate a good network of people of all ages, especially people older than you, because those people are going to be very helpful in your journey. Another thing that happens is a lot of people don't always show up for you, and it's something I'm still kind of working through, but a lot of it has nothing to do with you, and it has to do with them. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't love you or care about you, but you know, people go through all kinds of things, and they may be going through something very difficult themselves, and maybe they're not able to help you right now, and they don't know how to tell you that. So you may have people come back into your life after you heal, and I think it just, you need to take it on a case-by-case basis. Some people may say never talk to that person again, they're not a real friend, they aren't there for you. And I don't know, I think just give people a chance to show up for you, you know, even if it's after the fact. The other thing that happens is you start to feel like you are this cancer patient that people see in the movies, right? So there's not a lot of examples of people who work and have cancer, and that's very common. Some of your coworkers may even have cancer right now and you may not even know it. It's because we have to work. So unless you are going to be disabled for the rest of your life from cancer, hopefully you're not, you most likely will have to keep working, you know, unless you're stage 4. I was stage 3, so I was not, I mean, to my knowledge, maybe if I would have looked into it more, I could have been eligible, but to my knowledge, I was not eligible to take leave. And also, your job may not offer you FMLA. A lot of people will tell you to look into FMLA, which you should, but be cautious because not every job is guaranteed to have FMLA. I don't know why this is. I don't know how to fight against that. I think it should be mandatory that every job provides their employees with FMLA. So if you know how to fight against this, I would love to talk to you about that because it's something I'm very passionate about now. It felt embarrassing to have cancer. I don't know if I'm alone in that experience, but it felt cringy that I had cancer. I didn't want to wear those hats, you know, the chemo hats. I really only wanted to wear beanies. Because I didn't want anyone to look at me and know I had cancer. Yeah, I felt a lot of shame with it. You kind of start to beat yourself up, right? And you think like, did I do something wrong? Was it so much stress I had that caused that? Did I eat badly? And the thing is, like, you can't know, right? It's maybe our environment, and that's a whole other rant. I didn't have a family history, and I took the BRCA test. I didn't have the BRCA gene. I just wanted answers. But the thing is, it's like, you're not going to get answers. And I think that's the hardest part so far, is not having the answers of why this is happening to you. What could you have done, if anything, to prevent this? And the thing is, like, maybe you could have and maybe you can't, but this is just where you are now. And you just have to learn how to live in the now. And when I was diagnosed, I was just so angry. You know, I didn't want to be seen as this poor girl with cancer. That's not a very attractive label to live. You don't feel like you're able to date. You don't feel strong. You don't feel confident in yourself. You don't feel like you would be able to show up for people. And so it's like your dating life takes a huge toll if you're single. You just don't know how anyone can understand you or understand your experience. And am I gonna live this way forever? What I want to say is that it feels like a second job, and that is what I told people. One of the hardest things for me was the logistics, was managing all the appointments, was managing the appointments while still working, while still trying to be a normal person. But, you know, at a certain point, you kind of have to throw normal out the window. You are not living the way your friends are living. You're not living the way your family is living. And I think the most important thing you can do is find a community of people who understand you and who are there for you, who will show up for you when your other friends can't, or your family can't in some ways. I really recommend getting in touch with a group like 20'S Club. That group has been very helpful for me. I've made a lot of really good friends through that group. And especially in the early stages of cancer, you know, it allows you a space to just vent and to talk about things that might scare your friends or your family. I'm starting to get to the other side of things. I did chemo in November until around April or March, I think April. And then I had my surgery in May, had a month of recovery time. I had radiation for like the rest of the summer, so from like July to August. And now I am doing hormone therapy. You're done with, pretty much if you're done with treatment, they say there's no evidence of disease. That's a whole other thing. My advice for people going through this: set very good boundaries with everything in your life, and you need to put yourself first before literally everything in life. Everything. I don't know how that looks if you're a parent. I'm not one. Or if you're married, I'm not married. But for me, I had to put everything, I had to put myself completely first. You have to rest, you have to listen to your body, and you have to know that you will be okay. You have to just keep finding things to be happy about, and that's such corny advice, especially when you're in the middle of it and you're so mad and you can't even think about being happy. But, you know, give yourself a minute. Be angry. I'm not saying to not be angry. I've been angry. Anger can also be really harmful in some aspects, you know? It's like, it's a double-edged sword. You want to feel it so it's not just all in your body and you just feel like crap all the time. You don't want it to just control your life, because that's just terrible too. And then you just look for the negative in everything and you feel like everything good is going to get taken away from you. In this time, you start to learn that all the cheesy quotes are true, that all those like cliche things like choose gratitude. That's so annoying to hear that, but like you kind of have to choose gratitude. You kind of have to, because your option is just to be miserable if you don't. I'm also still just me. Oh, that's another thing I want to talk about. You will see that people think that you are not you anymore. And that is another one of the really hardest parts of that, because you are still you, but nobody will see you, they will see your cancer. And that is why, again, you need to join a group. You need to join a support group, especially like 20'S Club, where people will see you as you, and they won't see you as your cancer. And they give you a safe space to talk about your cancer and to let your anger out and just feel your feelings. But they see you as you. Pumpkin break. We got this little guy. We got this little guy right now. We have to choose our happiness. We have to do things like carve a pumpkin. You just have to learn how to move through it and how to create a better life afterwards. Oh, here's another thing. Cancer has taught me what is important to me in life. And I think, especially if you end up going through your cancer treatment in the middle of your Saturn return like me, you will realize what you need to do in life to be happy and what is serving you and what's not. And I really need you, you know, during this whole journey, to really look at what is making you happy, and anything that is not making you happy, that you don't actively need in your life at this exact moment, you need to cut it out of your life, because it's just going to make you more sick. I think she is looking beautiful. Oh, I'd also say too, if you're an American watching this, please have a family member set up a GoFundMe for you. I hope you don't need it more than for medical bills, but you never know. To recap, cancer sucks.